368 for cars. Good morning. Sergeants, can you please call the members? Ask them that we're about to start our council meeting, please. Sergeants, can you please help me call the members? We need at least another 3 members to begin our meeting. Mr. Englander, thank you. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, February 24th, and council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bono, Buscaino, Cedillo, Engler, Fuentes, Harris, Dawson, Weezer, Carrasco, Corcoran, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rue, Wesson, 12 members present, and a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. What's the first order of business?
Approval of the minutes?
Mr. Harris Dawson moves. Mr. Buscaino seconds. Next item.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Bonin moves and Mr. O'Farrell seconds. Next.
Madam President, the Department of Building and Safety recommends that items 1B, D, E, K, N, P, and X be received and filed, and as much as the liens were paid in full.
Okay, without objection.
And very good, ma'am. Madam President, that brings us items 1 and 2 are items noticed for public hearing.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any cards on those items?
Yes, cards on both.
Cards on both. And Mr. O'Farrell?
Madam President, I request that item 1J be continued until March 2nd.
Without objection, that will be the order.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Bonin?
I'd like to ask that 1H be continued for 30 days.
1H continued for 30 days for Mr. Bonin. Without objection. Members, any other specials?
And 30 days brings us to March 29.
Mr. Koretz?
No, it wasn't there.
On the remaining balance, let's close. We have cards.
Madam President, items 3 through 10 are items for which public hearings have been held. A Plum Committee report for item 4 has been submitted and circulated for Council's consideration.
Okay. Members, any specials? Mr. Koretz.
Item 10, please.
Item 10 for Mr. Koretz. Any other items? Mr. Buscaino?
Madam President, I wanted to make sure, and I have missed it. If I've missed it, my apologies. Items 1K and P have been noted to receive and file.
Yeah.
Yes,
Correct.
it has? Okay.
Correct, sir.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Any other items, members? Okay, on the remaining items, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Madam President, items 11 through 22 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, without objection, those items are before us, members. Mr. Weezar.
Number 19 special, please.
19 special for Mr. Weezar. Do you have any cards for those items? Any of those items, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, cards on items 16 through 22.
16 to 32. And members, any other specials? Seeing none. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, what's next, Mr. Clerk?
Madam President, that brings Council back to items called special or general public comment for items not on Council's agenda.
Mr. Buscaino, are you ready for your introduction?
Come on up. I'm going to ask Mr. O'Farrell to join me. This week we've kicked off the LA Italia Film Festival here in the city of Los Angeles in Mr. O'Farrell's district. Amazing week in preparation of the Oscars. I want to recognize a few individuals who have joined us here representing the Italian community, the Italian Consul General, Mr. Antonio Verdi. Thank you, Mr. Verdi, for joining us. Give him a warm welcome. Our Italian Trade Commissioner, Fiorentino Blandolino. Thank you, Dino, for joining us, as well as the president of our Sister City Foundation, Mr. Tom Gilmore. So, colleghi, oggi sono fiero di introdurre a voi, Signore Pasquale Vicedomini. Mr. Pasquale Vicedomini is the organizer of many summer festivals throughout Italy, including our sister city, Ischia and Capri. Mr. Vicedomini is visiting here to attend, in its 11th year, the Los Angeles Italia Film Festival this week along Hollywood Boulevard at the Chinese Theater. Given Los Angeles' rich contributions to the world of entertainment, especially film, it only makes sense for us to establish and nourish stronger ties with other cities around the globe that also dazzle the world with so many classic films. And with deeper economic and cultural ties between the United States, the city of Los Angeles, and Italy, we can inspire one another, creating synergies which allow us to better ourselves and each other. And that's why this summer I will be attending and visiting our sister city, Ischia, during the film festival in Ischia during my business delegation trip to Italy to further deepen Los Angeles' economic and cultural ties with cities abroad who share a common goal of creating economic vitality through cultural expression, namely in the film industry and in tourism. And we'd like to welcome, again, this Italian delegation. Mr. Vice Domini is so in love with our city and in love with the creative capital of the world here, Los Angeles, and has really sparked a lot of interest within the Hollywood community that shares the Italian culture and film industry by allowing us this entire week and throughout the last 11 years to highlight the contributions that Italians have made to the film industry. Just this last Sunday, my wife and I, along with some family members, went to go see the U.S. premiere of My Name is Francesco, which is a documentary on the early life of, a film rather, not a documentary, of the early life of Pope Francis, which a packed house. It was an amazing, inspiring story of Pope Francis's days in Argentina. So with that, before I turn it over to Mr. Vice Domini and give him our official welcome, I want to have our colleague, Mr. O'Farrell, to say a few words.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much, Joe. Benvenuto a Estados Unidos. I don't know how to say it. Benvenuto. So this is just further evidence that Los Angeles and Hollywood is the film capital of the world. What a wonderful experience this Italian Film Festival, the 11th annual, is going to be. And Mr. Buscaino, thank you for your leadership on this. These cross-cultural experiences are what make Los Angeles so rich culturally. We are the melting pot of the world. And Italian cinema has such deep history in the film world, from La Dolce Vita to The Rose Tattoo with the great Anna Magnani, to A Beautiful Life, to Two Women with the magnificent Sophia Loren. Italian cinema has enriched the world of cinema for decades and decades and decades. So congratulations and welcome to Hollywood and welcome to Los Angeles. Let's have a wonderful Italian Film Festival. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mitch. So with that, it gives me great pleasure to officially welcome Mr. Pasquale Vice Domini to the city of Los Angeles and Pueblo de Nostra Señora da Reina de Los Angeles. Welcome to Los Angeles. Pasquale, un poco di parole.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for this lovely morning. I am very proud to be here representing my country, which is a mythologic country, in a mythologic city. Los Angeles is the myth for all the movie people from all over the world, and it is also for Italian people. I started 20 years ago in Italy a festival on the Isle of Capri, which is called Capri Hollywood, to create a bridge, a cultural bridge between Italy and Los Angeles. And it became immediately a big success. It became immediately a point where the American filmmakers come and they can showcase whatever they want to do. And we, since a few years, we officially start the award season. Means that many of the Hollywood icons get there in order to promote the movies looking for the award season. Then in 2003, I started a new project on the island, also Naples Bay, Ischia, also to consolidate this important bridge. At this point, we needed the tower of this ideal cultural bridge, because we had 2 towers in Italy. We were missing the tower in the States, because to have a bridge, you need 2 towers, one on each side. So essentially, previously I started a project in Washington, D.C., because I thought that was very important to have the Italian movie industry, the Italian cultural industry, to be represented in the political capital of the United States of America. All the all the politicians are there, all the diplomacy are there, and also the National Italian American Foundation is based there. And essentially, I started a project during the Italian American Week in Washington, D.C. It was pretty successful. Then I came for a few days during the Oscar week, and I came here to understand what was better. All of a sudden, the following summer, as I am an anchorman of the Italian television, I was invited to be the host for the World Music Award, which take place in Hollywood. Then it was called the Coda Theater. So I went there, I did this amazing show for the Italian public television, RAI, and I had the privilege to meet the principals of the CIN group, the CIN group who owns the property of the Hollywood and Island and many others. So the minute I had the possibility to talk with them, I said, well, I think that this could be an amazing opportunity for having a festival during the Oscar week at the Chinese Theater. They immediately say, are you Italian? Yes, so you can make it. So they supported me because I am Italian, and I really am proud to be Italian for this reason, because essentially Italy has a very important part during the Oscar week. Although we were not structured very well, but there is a lot of Italy on the red carpet all over, because a lot of factories, a lot of accessories, a lot of, where is luxury is Italy. So we started this project, and immediately was very, very successful, thanks to the CIN group. And immediately I started to think that we should have been more and more increasing it. So with the CIN group, I made the first application to the Hollywood Walk of Fame for an Italian legendary maestro, Bernardo Bertolucci, and the reaction was immediately, yes, we're going to give a star on Walk of Fame to Bernardo Bertolucci. 2 years later, speaking with Laurent Gubler, the president of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, I say, what should we do next? He said, can you get Bocelli? I said, of course, we can get Bocelli. It would be honored. So we got a star on the Walk of Fame for Andrea Bocelli. So then we made another application for another iconic fashion idol from Italy, but we couldn't get it. I mean, maybe I made a little mistake to don't push hard, because I'm sure it would be worth to have a development of the Walk of Fame with some iconic brand of fashion to increase the area also of iconic brand. Although Rodeo Drive is the iconic street for the fashion. So anyway, I thought maybe we could try with somebody else. Somebody else was Ennio Morricone. And so I did the application in 2014, and all of a sudden I received a phone call by Laurent Gubler saying, Hollywood Chamber of Commerce delivered the star for Ennio Morricone. So the maestro is 87 years old. Last year he couldn't make to accept the star, but this year we're gonna have the star. So in 2 days, the day after tomorrow, 11:30 in the morning, we're gonna have a big celebration with Mr. Farrell and Mr. Buscaino to welcome the maestro 2 days before the Oscar. So thank you so much for having us, for allowing Italy to have such a privilege to showcase here with you. Thank you.
And thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam President. I see Mr. Krikorian just glowing and smiling, and knowing that you too have that deep interest in film and the students that you're impacting in your community by exposing them to the film industry. It's amazing, Mr. Krikorian. Thank you so much. And appreciate the time here, and how blessed we are to have these relationships with our brothers and sisters in Italy. We continue to promote our relationship and to continue to promote trade, cultural arts, food, film, and tourism. So thank you very much for this opportunity to welcome Mr. Vice Domini to the city of Los Angeles. Grazie a tutti.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sure. Thanks, Vince.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, let's move on to item 16.
Item 16, called Special for Cards.
Arnold Sachs, are you here? Item 16, sir.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. And this refers to the lighting district at Porter Ranch. Porter Ranch. Why does that sound so familiar? Oh, Porter Ranch. Is this property for this lighting this lighting district would have been annexed from the county? And Porter Ranch is, what is? Oh, not Exide. Aliso Canyon and the oil well there. Was it, I believe, a master plan for Porter Ranch? I mean, the oil field is like 4,000 acres. How much of that makes up the Porter Ranch, or the Porter Ranch development make up of the 4,000 acres? Certainly it's not all going to be developed and turned into lighting districts for the city to annex or from the county's unincorporated area. So is the city going to have a planning land use management for the additional land that isn't going to be developed, because now everybody knows, and who would believe that it actually sits on the largest gas storage facility west of the Mississippi? It's Porter Ranch, sir, and it's a lighting district, sir. So I'm just wondering how it got to be a lighting district sitting on top of the largest natural gas storage facility west of the Mississippi. You would think that some politician would know about that gas storage facility. In yesterday's LA Times, it was noted that it supplies 60% of the natural gas in Southern California. And yet nobody knew. And now these people are complaining who live there that their homes are threatened by this gas storage.
Mr. Sachs, we need to talk about the item, which is street
the lighting district, Porter Ranch.
Not the gas leak.
It's
Street
part
lighting.
of Porter Ranch, though. And I appreciate you paying attention. Where were you before?
Thank you, sir. That concludes cards on item 16. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, let's move on to item 17.
Item 17, called special for cards.
Mr. Walsh, item 17.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. Number 17, again, this is REAP, Renesco Account Program. As I've said, you do an excellent job. When you do an excellent job on something like renters, you don't hear me coming up here and complaining about the way you treat me as a renter. Because what you're interested in is tearing down where I rent, and of course giving it over to the Oriental developers. So in any case, removing various properties from REAP, this means that if you hadn't kept your property up to code, you've had to pay to the city the rent, not to the landlord, and that has ended for these people. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Next speaker, Wayne Spindler on item 17. Mr. Spindler, pass. That concludes cards on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Let's move on to item 18.
Item 18, called special for cards.
Mr. Sachs, item 18.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. And this refers to city-owned property. So I'm wondering here again, it was listed in the newspaper the city was looking for sites for the Olympic Village, but those weren't city-owned properties. So I'm wondering, why aren't they looking at city-owned properties for Olympic Village housing, or even affordable housing? Affordable housing, did anybody say affordable housing? Low-income housing. Why are these units not being considered? And maybe were these properties under the control of the redevelopment agency at one time? And how does that work out? Maybe they could have done the old AEG situation where they promised to build a stadium and traded off properties as part of the deal, and they never built the stadium, but they kept the properties. And if you go down Figueroa Street, you'll see 2 new hotels going up on property that was once art redevelopment.
Next speaker on item 18, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org. If you remember, the city tried to sell all their parking lots. They put them on the market, and guess what? This was even in the LA Times. No offers. They're losers. Nobody. No capitalist in the world. Now what you want to do is take the city-owned parking lots at North Wilcox and at Hollywood Boulevard and get rid of them, sell them to a developer who will demolish them and put up huge high-rises and put up, that's what this is all about. Read it. 6518 Hollywood Boulevard, city-owned parcels that will be made available to qualified developers. That's developers who shove money up your goddamn asses. This is scum. You're destroying Hollywood.
Mr. O'Farrell?
Madam President, this surface parking lot is in the heart of Hollywood, and it's on the list specifically for the production of affordable housing. That's why it's on the list, for the production of affordable housing to help address the #1 crises facing the city of Los Angeles. So yes, we would love to have an affordable housing developer approach us to do just that, build badly needed affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell, for the clarification. Mr. Wayne Spindler, are you speaking on item 18?
Vote no on this corruption. We need to park cars. O'Farrell's not going to give you any housing that's affordable. He will only take away and raise your rents. Last night we talked about this in the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce meeting about the initiative coming up. Yes on the integrity initiative. No on this rotten giveaway. Why are we giving things to developers? Developers are the enemy. They are not our friends. They are our corporate master scumbag assholes that take money
You need to
and
speak
put
on the
it
item,
up
Mr.
the
Spindler.
ass of various
Mr.
politicians.
Spindler, you need to speak to the item.
They're doing that,
18.
Nuri. And that's why we have to vote no, because these politicians are getting money from these developers. Vote no, and finally, fuck the council.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Spindler. That concludes cards on this item. Mr. Clerk, can you open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote?
14 ayes.
Okay. Item passes. Let's move on to item 22.
Item 22, called special for cards.
Sean, item 22.
Good morning, Madam President. Item 22, I am against this item.
Thank you, Sean. That concludes cards on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Let's move on to item 20, Mr. Clerk.
Item 20, called special for cards.
Mr. Walsh, item 20.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, J. Walsh Confidential. If they don't speak on the item, that means they want to cover it up. This is a very important item. relative to the retention of outside counsel on a contingency compensation basis only for judgment collection. What has been happening up till now, and you're not going to hear anything from them. You're going to see 15 fucking mouths shut on this goddamn issue. Up till now, you have been paying lawyers to chase people, and they didn't catch them for compensation, and they owe the city money, and then we end up spending tens of thousands of dollars on lawyers that didn't, outside lawyers that didn't get the money. They didn't find the people who are stealing money from us. And at least the city attorney is trying to do something here, but all of you, and it's been pushed up here, but you're not going to say a goddamn word.
Next speaker, Aaron Previn. Mr. Spindler, can you please sit down?
Yes, it's Eric Previn from CD2, back in business here. This is an item where the city attorney, after having an RFP in August of 2015 to get a firm to assist with these properties that are estimated, there are about 10 of them that could be up to $1 million of collection on each. Subsequent to the RFP, he has decided that Joshua Friedman, Esquire, would be a better alternative for more money. The firm that had won the RFP, they were the only firm that bid, which was strange. Were offering something like 28% of the take. This group, Joshua Friedman, is taking substantially more. It raises a question, which is, what is the city attorney doing with 600 plus attorneys upstairs, 900 staff entirely, that they cannot be conducting this effort on their own? To engage private attorneys in this particular field is strange, because certainly the city attorney himself supposed to bring the kind of authoritative effort to provide these kinds of collections. Certainly in this hall, it is under the city attorney's auspices that you're constantly collecting from people. Now, is it because it is a gang-related? And by the way, there's no evidence that these are all gang-related, but it's possible that they are all gang-related. I don't understand. I do not understand this, and I do not understand how it is subsequent to an RFP he can just make an alternate plan and get Mr. Krikorian to agree in budget and finance, and then we're moving forward. There are basically two people in this building who approve all of these legal maneuvers, and as early as last week, there was a big liability uptick for the city from 60 million to 80 million, then down to 60 million, and none of that was allowed to be exposed to the public comment for various reasons which are completely improper and will be challenged and are being challenged.
Thank you. The next speaker is Wayne Spindler on item 20.
Now we have waste of money for the Hebrew Joshua Friedman being given money. The money changers are back for the special abatement operations. Contingency compensation? No. Read the Torah, Hebrews. You cannot do this kind of thing. You will burn in hell. Vote no on this. We do not need judgment collection from Hebrew lawyers. We can use people called collection agents. Who are collection agents? People who collect fucking money. This is not a collection agent. This is a very high-priced lawyer. Why are we hiring lawyers to do clerical duties? Because this city is corrupt, and because, finally, fuck the city council.
Thank you, sir. That concludes cards on items 20, Mr. Clerk. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Let's move on to item 19.
Item 19, called special for cards.
Mr. Sachs, item 19, followed by Sean.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. And this item refers to the City Council taking some action to make sure the state oversight, Department of Toxic Substance Control, has a plan to test and remediate possible contaminated spaces in Boyle Heights. I'm wondering if you could amend that to include them having a plan to remediate possible contaminated spaces in the horseshoe around City Council. Another one of these places, Exide, snuck in under the radar. Who knew? Yesterday at the County Board of Supervisors, they made a presentation to the Exide team for all the work they've done to remediate the problem at Exide. I'm thinking, Team Exide, 30 years, 30 years, 30 years, that's 3 decades. That's a long time. And the City Council is moving. You didn't make any movement, though, when the Exide had a settlement. They're not being accused of any kind of felony charges or any kind of legal charges. They got off on that. That's why the cleanup is occurring. Why didn't the city step up then? Maybe they're following in the county footsteps. 30 years of silence, and now everybody's on board to move this forward. Well, if you had paid attention at the county yesterday, you would have found out that the state allocated $100 and some odd million for this cleanup. You'll see how far that goes. But in addition, nobody was moved out, no schools were closed, no pets were affected, nothing. Can you say Porter Ranch?
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Sean, on item 19.
Yeah, this item here is a good item, but what are the people in Porter Ranch going to do? They have to come back to their houses. Their houses have to be clean before they get back there.
Thank you, Sean. Mr. Weezer?
Thank you, Madam President. And colleagues, as you may know, Exide Technologies, a battery recycling facility in the city of Vernon, was allowed to operate for more than 30 years with a temporary permit. Now, I don't know about you, but 30 years is not temporary. And this was allowed despite numerous violations of state law, federal law, with respect to what types of emissions could be let out into our environment. After violation after violation, they still were allowed to operate, eventually exposing 100,000 people to dangerous levels of arsenic and contaminating as many as 10,000 homes with lead pollution. Finally, the U.S. Attorney's Office stepped in and entered into an agreement with Exide to close down in order to avoid criminal prosecution. They were also ordered to put aside $50 million for remediation, which is just a fraction of what is needed, and to comply with cleanup instructions from the DTSC. Unfortunately, the DTSC, which was asked to oversee the cleanup, is the same agency that gave them a temporary permit for 30 years. And as this cleanup started, knowing that $50 million was not enough, at the rate they were going, it would take 50 years to complete the cleanup of 10,000 homes. And that's why a couple of weeks ago we introduced a motion to ask the governor to step in and do more, to ask the governor to fully fund the cleanup to what the state is calling one of the largest contaminated areas in the state of California. Thankfully, after we put in that motion and the motion before us today that we're voting on, the governor just last week announced $167 million to help with the cleanup. But it's not enough. It costs about $45,000 to clean up each home, and there are about 10,000 homes. And then again, at the pace that DTSC is going, despite them having the money, it's going to take years before the remediation occurs. Meanwhile, children continue to play in contaminated soil. Meanwhile, children go to our parks and libraries and local areas and public spaces where this contamination has been tested and it is shown to be at levels that are not acceptable. So while some may say that the governor stepped up and provided the funding necessary, this resolution is still necessary for us to support because, one, it is not enough funding, And secondly, we have not received a timeline by which the cleanup will occur. We have little faith in the DTSC, and we hope that with this resolution, it would help continue the pressure on DTSC and the governor to continue to step up and clean up this devastation that has harmed and continues to devastate the lives of people in Bow Heights and surrounding southeast communities. I ask for an aye vote on this, and I ask that we continue to ask the governor and our state legislators as they see the bills that go through to support the $176 billion that they know that the city of Los Angeles is behind us continue to support additional attention and support for this area that has been devastated for over 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weezer. That concludes cards on this item as well. So let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Item passes. Let's move on to item 21.
Item 21, called special for cards.
Mr. Walsh, item 21, sir.
Here's 1 minute.
Mr. Walsh, just a reminder, you have 1 minute left.
I spent 1 minute, 1 second on the last item, and you charged me for 2 minutes. Scumbags, cheaties, assholes. 1 minute plus 1 second equals 2 minutes. Maybe when Weezer is fucking his girlfriend
Mr. Walsh,
in the office.
Mr. Walsh, you want to speak to the item,
Okay,
sir?
offer for information, apprehension. Again, you never catch these people because snitches get stitches. 50,000 to be 50 million fucking dollars, and you wouldn't get anybody. This is the hit and run capital of the world. And every time you add another liquor license, you are killing people. And they're mostly people with Weezer skin, and they're not people with Koretz's skin or his religion. You racist fucking scumbags.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. The next speaker is Sean on item 21.
Item 21, I'm pass on this.
Thank you. Next speaker is Wayne Spindler, item 21.
Yes. As I got done, thank you, Mr. Friedman, for those nice remarks. Now we get to item 21. This is the Marchese-Harris-Dawson item. Vote no, it's not enough money. People are dying in the streets. We need more than $50,000. We need $500,000 for this item. Please raise it tenfold, because people in the Watts area have to come out of the woodwork and snitch. But when they snitch, they get one stitch after another. Snitches get bitches, get snitches. You have to vote no on this item. Please don't do it for this money. Nobody will come forward. Nobody trusts the cops. Nobody trusts the council. They only trust Marchese in the neighborhood. And finally, don't trust the police. Fuck the police!
That concludes cards on item 21. Let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Let's move on to item 2, Mr. Clerk.
That brings us to item 2, called special for cards. And Madam President, the department has recommended that this matter be received and filed inasmuch as the taxpayer has made payment arrangements for the liability owed.
Without objection. Mr. Spindler, item 2. Sure.
And Madam President, I just confirmed with our sound technicians, when individuals yell into the microphones, it does have a tendency to damage the equipment, so they should be warned not to yell into the microphones.
Okay, so
item 2.
We'll try to be very quiet and not damage the equipment. So we're going to have to be very quiet on item number 2.
You're not speaking on the item.
Yes, I am. I'm talking on item 2 regarding a fucking lien. So item 2, they're going to make payment. Excellent. Thank you, MGRB. Because I know the equipment here is broken, and I know there's a lot of liens, so please take the $4,905 and buy new recording equipment, because this recording equipment for this lien is a piece of shit that was made 25 years ago by Taiwanese Korean markers that weren't paid enough money. So you have to vote no on this. So thank you for the lien, and hopefully Nuri Martinez will spend the money from the lien to get the sound
Thank you,
technician
Mr. Wayne.
taken up so that we can hear.
That concludes cards on item 2. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Let's move on to item 1.
Madam President, that brings us to item 1, called Special for Cards. As the speakers make their way up, there's been a request from the department when we vote upon this matter to continue items G, M, L, R, and T to March 29, and to receive and file item A inasmuch as the property was determined to be an owner-occupied single-family dwelling and thus exempt from lien processing.
Okay, without objection, Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to ask that item 20 be sent forthwith, please.
Item 20 is sent forthwith for Mr. Krikorian. Wayne Spindler on item 1.
Okay, I see this shit is working again, so now I actually have 2 minutes left. So we have liens, number BCD4, David. I know you'll help your constituent because you're a good guy. Help him out on that item. Then we get, let's see here, item G, Marchese. Item G, that's your constituent. And item I also, please help your constituent. I know you care. Item L also. Then we get to CD6. Nuri, help them out on M and N. And then we get to item R, that's in CD2. 7301 North Marietta Avenue. I know that he doesn't give a shit, so you have no chance on that item. So on the rest, disapprove them all.
That concludes cards on item 1. Let's open the roll.
Pardon me, Madam President.
Sure.
Before doing so, there's been a request from the department to reduce item 1U to $2,533.45 due to partial payment. Subsequent to that, council can confirm the lien.
Without objection, now we can open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Let's move on to item 10.
That was item 10, called special for Councilmember Koretz.
Mr. Koretz, item 10.
Thank you, Madam President. I know there's been some conversation about offices where elected officials have departed and not left a lot of paperwork. I just wanted to make it clear, I don't know how widespread the practice is, but it's not unique to CD4. When I was elected, Jack Weiss literally left me without a single piece of paper or computer record. So we had to start every single constituent case from scratch. So I don't know how many other folks have experienced this on the council when they started, but I think it's a process that should end, and I strongly support taking a good look at this with item number 10.
There are no more members on the queue, and public comment was satisfied in committee, so let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Let's move on to public comment. Arnold Sachs, followed by Sean and John Walsh.
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. And it's fascinating. That's a fascinating report, Councilman Koretz. How long have you been in office? 8 years? And this is the first time you've come forward to mention this. This is a real problem going around this council chamber. There was a motion posted earlier today on the bulletin board, but it wasn't read into the record. Read into the record. So that means there's no record of that motion. Just like there'd be no record of any of the programs that you needed to start all over again. That's a real problem. Oh, and by the way, on Monday, Mayor Spaghetti is going to discuss transportation issues in the city of Los Angeles. At the Board of Supervisors meeting, it was mentioned that MTA is considering R2, another half-cent sales tax. That means the County of Los Angeles will get approximately $5 billion in sales tax revenue if you base it on their projections from Measure R, which was $40 billion over 30 years. If you believe that,
Thank you, Mr.
listen
Sachs.
to this president.
Next speaker is Sean, followed by John Walsh.
Yeah, what's going on with our city? People are getting shot. Councilman's brother got shot. Something ought to be done about it.
Mr. Walsh?
John Walsh, we'd like to say, please, Reverend Al Sharpton, welcome to L.A. He is coming to L.A. The entire world will be watching the greatest demonstration, black demonstration in the history of the world. This will happen at the Oscar cast, the vicious, vile, sexist Oscar cast. Everybody's coming. They're going to tie up the whole city. Every black person in America, in the world, will be watching you racist scumbags. And you'll all be in there protected by your white police. Boycott the Oscar cast and watch the demonstration on Hollywood Boulevard. It will be out of control. This is the greatest, and Reverend Al Sharpton is going to lead the charge on you racist garbage. Not one of you will get up and speak against the Racist Academy.
Next speaker, Eric Previn, followed by Michael Carrion and Wayne Spindler.
Yes, it's Eric Previn from CD2. And as we go into the Oscar weekend, I would ask this body to consider the movie Spotlight, which was a film that addressed what happened in Boston with the Catholic Church and various priests who were engaged in abusing children. This hall is rotten at the core, as you well know, and all of you sit here and look on a regular basis as people are violated of their civil right to redress the local government. Your appalling conduct in that regard ought to be front and center this weekend as that movie garners praise, whether it wins or not, for the brave souls who took the energy to chase down this kind of rampant and appalling conduct. The fact that you threw me and Ruth Sarnoff out of the meeting when there were 93 items after Englander's stunt up in public safety is so beneath anyone elected to this office that all I can tell you is that you will not be permitted a free pass, and the LAPD should not be engaging under the color of authority in breaking the law, Mr. Blumenfield.
Next speaker is Michael Carrion, followed by Wayne Spindler.
Hey, where did Weezer go? He ran off again. Anyways, Mr. Weezer was talking about Exide. He should have did that when he was in the Board of Education. He's been here 10 years, hasn't done anything. But like everybody else, he jumps on the bandwagon. We were talking about the other day about bringing the Olympics here. Why? Crime's gone up, and that percentage does not include the LAPD crime. Crimes that police officers are committing, such as Dornan, such as Englander, such as the Hollywood police officers who were raping women for years. And everybody knew it, but nobody did nothing about it. City Council paid out $600,000 prior to that, and they're going to pay out a lot more. As Weezer runs off to hide like a big coward in the back, somebody ought to throw him a kiss.
Next speaker, Wayne Spindler.
Yes, after item 20, Joshua P. Friedman, now a city employee, accosted me and threatened me. On the record, that's what happens at City Hall. No on the Oscars. Racist fucking Oscars being sponsored by a racist fucking council, and you're all for it. The elimination of black people, the elimination of anyone except pure Aryan fucking white people will be at this year's Oscars, and none of you say a fucking word except kissing the ring of the racist proprietors. And that's why I agree with Joshua P. Friedman when he says, you're a fucking piece of shit, because he was really saying this to you out of the goodness of his heart. And finally, join us tonight in the Encino Neighborhood Council for the Jewish Federation, hosted by Todd Rubenstein.
Next speaker, Maurice Harville.
All right, what we're concerned about is minimizing the amount of radiation Americans are exposed to every day. We're asking do not Wi-Fi our entire city, do not put smart poles on our sidewalks, do not put Wi-Fi in our schools, do not put wireless devices on our police officers. Wireless radiation causes neurological disorders, cancer, immune system problems, and reproductive harm. Microwaves emitted by wireless devices and transmitters are hurting our families. You should be warning and protecting our families from wireless radiation. But instead, you guys are making it worse. The wireless industry and FCC are lying to you, and we are paying the price. There are hundreds of studies showing harm from wireless radiation. And bioinitiative.org, you can go there and check it out, and saferemr.com. The city of Berkeley is already warning its citizens about wireless radiation.
Thank you,
and you
sir.
guys are doing nothing.
Thank you. The next speaker is Crystal Jones. Is Crystal Jones here?
Yep, there's 60 countries in our world that are worried about the radiation coming into their countries, and America is not one of them. 1 million children were diagnosed with cancer last year due to wireless technology and the cell towers and living close by radiation and things like that. And you guys are just about to install all of these two-way transmitters and these cell phone towers into our streets in the form of light posts and smart towers, and we just don't want that. You're not even making Los Angeles, giving them the option to decide if they want to live in such a radiated city. And you guys need to be informing us of the dangers of the technology that you are putting out into our streets, and instead you're trying to put all of these different gadgets and equipment out into our streets without us even knowing what's going on. And by the time you get everything up and we realize the problem,
thank you, ma'am,
it's going to be too late.
Next speaker is Eric Previn, followed by Yvonne Michelle Autry. Mr. Previn, you're not here? Well, he filled out twice. So next speaker is Yvonne Michelle Autry.
Yeah, I'd like to support what Wayne said. And, 1 minute is not enough time to express one's thoughts with clarity without sounding like we're rambling so that you can discredit or undermine whatever testimony that we've lived to tell. You do want an all-white society in categorizing us. What I'd like to say is that, the resources need to be used more for black people. I see most of the resources being given to Hispanic people. I know immigrants that are undocumented, that drive, that have jobs and have houses. A lot of black people don't have that. And we built this country. My grandparents, great-great-grandparents, I have European and Native American ancestors. I'm not going to accept my reparations in the form of homelessness on Skid Row so you can commission your police officers to rape and murder me and justify it by claiming that I'm a crack addict, bipolar, manic depressive, or schizophrenic, or prostitute. Do you understand this? With no black people that have been nominated, this is your vision for Los Angeles with the regentrification.
Thank you, ma'am.
And then worldwide.
You're done. Thank you.
And I'm not a racist.
The public comment, we are done with public comment, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, ma'am. You can sit down. That concludes public comment. Mr. Clerk, what's next?
Madam President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
Posted and referred.
The desk is clear.
Members, are there any announcements? Seeing none, can we please rise for adjourning motions? Are there any adjourning motions? Mr. Buscaino.
Colleagues, I ask that we adjourn in memory of Nicholas Paul Lopez, born on February 6, 1995 in Beverly Hills to two police officers, one of our very own LAPD officers and another the California Department of State Hospital Police Department. Nicholas became a West Covina police explorer in 2009, graduated from the LA Sheriff's Training Academy in 2010, Class 83. He was the youngest platoon leader at the young age of 14 and graduated from West Covina High School in June 2013. Amazing child, always asking questions, calling you out when he thought the answers made no sense. He was fearless, tenacious, and loyal to a fault. He believed in working hard for what he wanted and without hesitation fighting for what he believed. He had an unwavering love and devotion for the people he loved, his son, girlfriend, both of his mothers, godmothers, family, and friends. Nicholas was an entrepreneur of sorts and was nearly finished building a racing motor, a project which was destined to make his dream a reality. Unfortunately, Nicholas was involved in a fatal motorcycle accident on February 20th in the city of West Covina and was unable to survive his injuries. He will be sorely missed and will be forever in our hearts. Nicholas Paul Lopez, may he rest in peace, and our love and prayers go out to both of his mothers and his entire family. Thank you.
Anyone else on my left? Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, for those of you who know me well, you know that I'm both a Dodger and an Angel fan, dating back to the days when the Angels played at Chavez Ravine. Any Angels fan worth his salt remembers Tony Phillips, who unfortunately died too young of a heart attack at age 56. In 1995, the Angels came the closest to the playoffs that you could come. It was entirely because of Tony Phillips, who was a leadoff hitter who hit 27 home runs, 119 runs scored, and 113 walks, and really carried the team to almost making the playoffs. They were 11 and a half games ahead in August, and they had the worst collapse in Major League history. As some of you will remember, they had a one-game playoff at the end with the Seattle Mariners, and they lost. But one of the most remarkable seasons ever. He was an amazing utility player, played just about every position, had a great eye, had at least 100 walks in most of his seasons. Interestingly enough, he also was one of the older players to attempt a major league comeback. So he tried to catch on with a major league team at age 53. He was playing in the International League at age 55, amazingly, and was still playing up to the time he died. A great player and an amazing guy, and Angel fans certainly, and Major League fans will miss him greatly.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Any other adjourning motions? Seeing none, our meeting is adjourned.